Some shows talk about one team. Other shows barely talk sports. This show will talk Packers, Brewers, and Bucks every day. Every day. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily with Steve Sparky Fifer. Served up by Wendy's on 1250 AM and 105.7 FM The Fan. Download the Wendy's app today.
Well, here we are. You and me and Charlie, and it's a Friday. As we broadcast live from the 1250 AM at 105.7 FM The Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook, Steve Sparky Fifer. With you, coming up on today's show, Ryan Wood, Packers beat writer for the Green Bay Press-Gazette, Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. He'll join us coming up at 2:40 today. And he was at the scrimmage yesterday down in Indianapolis between the Packers and Colts as they get ready to play coming up here, tomorrow afternoon, I believe, at noon. A noon kick on a Saturday. So that's something a little weird and different. But if you go back and listen to what Matt LaFleur had to say, Matt LaFleur, when he put together this pregame schedule, wanted the games to be game times in which they will play at during the season.
You want some breaking news right away, Sparky?
Is it Sunday and not Saturday?
No.
Oh, I was right on that?
Well, I think so.
Yes, it's noon tomorrow. I'm sure. We recorded it.
But Kurt Hogue just announced via the Brewers.
The Brewers got Micah Parsons.
No.
Oh.
Jacob Mizorowski is activated from the IL. That is the big news. So he should be on some kind of rehab assignment or just back with the team coming up here. That's what's coming out.
Stupid rehab assignment. Put him out there and let's go. So Mizorowski is back.
Yes.
All right. That's good news. Need Jacob Mizorowski. Gotta have the Miz. And that means he's ready for the Cubs series. He's ready for the Cubs series. Buddy. But first they got to deal with the Reds tonight. 4:30 leadoff show powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Their guy Tommy Wirtz right here on the Fan. Stay tuned for that at 4:30. Now, as I was saying, so Packers, Colts tomorrow at noon. Ryan Wood will be there for that, so he'll join us coming up at 2:40. Jeff Rieger from The Ticket in Detroit, back in the day on this station, 911 Rieger, when he's a producer host, called 911 on accident. Long story. But anyways, he's coming up at 3 o'clock as Michigan got sanctions laid on them today from the sign-stealing scandal from back in the day. We'll talk to Jeff Rieger about that. 3:20, Andrew Widener, Forbes Sports, Brewers writer. We go inside the clubhouse, brought to you by Focus Baseball. Get his thoughts on all the moves, right, that the Brewers have got going on. We have Blake Perkins on bereavement. He's not going to be in Cincinnati. We have Isaac Collins on paternity, expecting a baby. So he's not going to be in Cincinnati. Now the news of Jacob Mizorowski being activated as well. So we'll talk to Wags about all of that coming up at 3:20. Charlie Sounds of the day at 3:40. Tyler Dunn from GoLongTD.com. He'll join us for a Green and Gold update brought to you by the Potawatomi Sportsbook at 4 o'clock. He had some interesting things to say about Jordan Love in one of his mailbags at GoLongTD.com. So we'll talk to him at 4 o'clock. And then things that we missed, and we'll crosstalk a little bit with T-Dog, as Charlie put him on the rundown, not to be confused with Hunk of Love, Tommy Wirtz, coming up at 4:20. Looking forward to that. But we're going to start off talking about the Milwaukee Brewers with the news, as we just mentioned, with Blake Perkins and Isaac Collins both expected to miss this Red Series in Cincinnati this weekend. That starts tonight. Do you think the Brewers can extend their winning streak through the weekend? Meaning, can you get to Wrigley on Monday, day-night doubleheader on Monday, so 2 leadoff shows on Monday. Can you get to Monday at Wrigley for the first game of that doubleheader, riding a 15-game winning streak? Now, remember, the best winning streak in Brewers history was with that 87 team. We talked with Robin Yount yesterday. If you missed the Robin Yount interview yesterday, go back, listen to it on your Odyssey app, iHeart app, wherever you download your favorite podcast at, or you can watch it on YouTube as well. Search The Fan Milwaukee. We stream all of our shows there. We have our shorts, our videos. Check it out. Again, The Fan Milwaukee on YouTube. But that 87 team won 13 in a row to start the season. That's the number that they are trying to surpass to set a new winning streak mark for Brewers history coming up this weekend in Cincinnati, but they're going to have to do it without 2 of their main guys. Now, we could talk about, who they called up. one of the guys that's coming up is one of my favorite players of all time.
I'm glad you owned up to it finally.
Not. Tyler Black is being brought up as well. So I really, really, really want to see. Oh, Tommy Ward says Miz is starting today?
I did see that from the Sean Wright account.
That
I haven't
does
seen it
not
from
count.
I haven't seen it from anybody else.
No.
So that's why I made sure to ask.
That account is fake.
Uh-huh.
Folks, that Sean Wright account is trash. Block it. Whatever you want to do. It's a troll account. What did you say it was before?
I think it's somebody who's literally just posting like every AI news thing that they can have about a Milwaukee sports team and hoping that one of them hits and one of them is right. So that's what I think it is. I think it's literally a spam account that is just spamming random sports updates that may not be or may not be true.
I've got good news, though. Kurt Hogue, 2 minutes ago, Jacob Mizorowski
there
started
we go.
tonight.
All right.
That's
confirmed.
not a fake account. That's not
That's
a troll
real.
account. Jacob Mizorowski starting tonight in Cincinnati. That place can be home run derby in Cincinnati at times down there at Great American Ballpark. I'm just telling you right now, it can be home run derby. So Mizorowski with the start tonight for the Milwaukee Brewers. Very, very, very excited about that. Now, the guys coming up to replace Isaac Collins. Oh, another move that I didn't see. Grant Anderson optioned to AAA, Nashville. So Grant Anderson, the side armor, he is on his way to AAA. So you have Stuart Baroa and Tyler Black both coming up. Charlie, look up Stuart Baroa. I'm going to let you look him up. I looked him up last night when I saw this being talked about at 10:30 last night. Stuart Baroa fits the profile of every other Brewers outfielder.
Yes, he does.
5'9", no power, can run.
28 stolen bases in minor leagues this season, 243 average, 1 home run, 18 RBIs.
If you look up in his earlier years, he's got like 40-some stolen bases on some years, right?
Yeah.
So, again, nothing to write home about with this dude, but he fits with how they want to play, with a bunch of short guys. So, you got Baroa coming up, and you've got Tyler Black coming up. Collins and Perkins both out for this weekend. Mizorowski activated. Grant Anderson optioned to Class AAA. A lot of stuff for Tommy to talk about in the leadoff show coming up at 4:30 as well. So, the question is, do you think the Brewers can extend their winning streak through the weekend, now knowing all of this news that we just talked about? How far does this winning streak get? Nicolay Law Fan Talk at text line. 414-677-1250, 414-677-1250, Facebook and Twitter at The Fan Milwaukee. Sound off with a recorded voice message on the Odyssey app. And, of course, you can chat with us on YouTube. And I see some people are already shouting out, but we're talking about the Bucks over there. We'll get to the Bucks coming up at 2:20. People want to talk about Amir Coffey. Seriously. 2:20. We'll talk some Bucks. It's not going to be about Amir Coffey necessarily. We mentioned it for a couple minutes, but it's more about Bobby Portis coming up in the next segment before Ryan Wood and Packers talk coming up at 2:40. Bring up the pitching matchups for this weekend. Now that we know Mizorowski is a pitcher today, they're not going to have to face Hunter Green for the Reds, thank goodness. So don't have to worry about facing him. Zach Little, I think, is or Lytle, however you say his name, the former Rays pitcher. He's on the mound tonight, I believe, against Mizorowski, right?
Nick Martinez.
Oh, Martinez is tonight. Okay,
yeah,
so go ahead.
So Nick Martinez versus Miz tonight. Then you have Quinn Priester versus Littell tomorrow.
That's tomorrow. Okay.
And then Quintana versus Abbott on Sunday.
Abbott has been good this year, early on. So there is thoughts on that could be a little bit tougher. They've normally hit him pretty good. Not too worried about that. Nick Martinez, they've seen. Not too worried about Nick Martinez. And the dude from Tampa, I've had that dude in fantasy last couple of years. There's nothing special about that kid or about that guy, whatever. So I feel like they might be able to get this to 15 because you still have Yelich in the outfield. You still have Frelick in the outfield. And then it's Lockridge? Are those the three in the outfield? Who am I forgetting?
Yelich.
Yeah, I know that. Yelich, Frelick.
Yeah,
Lockridge?
Yeah, it's Lockridge. Yeah. I don't think anybody else.
Unless you could put Vaughn in the corner.
Maybe
put
to
Frelick
try
in center.
try it out just for a series. Like that could be experimental.
Frelick in center, Vaughn in right, Yelich in left.
Why not? I mean, again, this is a time to check things out, try some things, maybe Caleb Durbin sneaks in the outfield or something. You figure something out.
I don't know. I mean, because again, Tyler Black is going to be probably at first base when he's out there.
Or you put Tyler Black in the outfield, too.
Yeah, that's another option. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what that Brewers lineup is when it comes out today. Do you think the Brewers can extend their winning streak through the weekend with 15 wins? Nikolay Love, fan talking text line 414-677-1250. I think they can. I think in all three of those pitching matchups, I think they have the advantage pitching-wise against the guy they're facing in this series. The only thing that makes me nervous going into this series is they got some bats that can hit in Cincinnati. They can put up runs, right? I mean, if the Reds put up 7 or 8 runs in a game because they get to the Brewers' bullpen, would it shock me? No. If that's the way they lose, would I be surprised? No. I'll tell you what would surprise me. What would surprise me is if they get into this series against the Reds and they lose a game 2-1. They lose a game 1-0. Like, I firmly think and believe that this offense should continue to cook in Cincinnati this weekend.
I would think so. But also at the same time, they've been cooking for a really long time now, for the past month.
Yeah, they have.
Aren't they due to kind of come back down to earth a little bit here?
No. They've been cooking since the middle of May, man. I mean, if you talk about since the trade deadline, aren't they number 1 in slugging? I think if you go back a little bit longer than that, I think they're second in slugging.
But now you're without 2 of the hottest players since the trade deadline, too. Blake Perkins has been really good when he's played, and Isaac Collins is the key.
Collins is the key. Collins has been the best hitter in the lineup. See, that's where it hurts a little bit, because now when you go to put together this lineup, that's the other thing I want to see here from Pat Murphy. So is it Sal Frelick at 1, Contreras at 2? Do you move Terang to 3? And then Vaughn at 4, Yelich at 5? Does Yelich move up? I mean, those have to be your top 5. Those guys in some type of order are your top 5. And then you start talking about, okay, what does 6 through 9 look like, right? So Durbin or Siegler at third base, they're down there at 9 or 8. Ortiz is still probably at 9, even though he's been playing well enough to be moved up. So that's 8 and 9. And then you have the other outfielder, Lockridge probably, unless it's Vaughn out there and Tyler Black. So maybe then it's Tyler Black. And that's it, right? That's everybody?
That is everybody, I think. I mean, I feel like with the bottom of the lineup, you don't need to change all that much. I think, you can keep Joey Ortiz where you have him. You can keep Siegler or Durbin wherever you're batting them. That doesn't really matter. Yeah, I think you do experiment with putting Bryce Trang more in the middle of the lineup here. That's kind of been the key to their most recent winning streak, is that Bryce Trang has found this stroke of power. I also know that you don't really want to mess with that if that's what he has going right now. You probably keep him in a similar spot, but also you have to see what you get when you put him into that position. This is a great series to just experiment a little bit. You've gotten enough of a lead on the Cubs at this point. You're basically a lock for the playoffs already. I mean, this is something where I think you look at this Reds team and say, yes, they want to compete too. They're still playing for a playoff spot, but we don't really have to worry about them all that much. Let's do our thing and see what we have out of some of these other guys, just in case there is a big injury later on in the season, just in case we do lose an Isaac Collins at some point for a more extended period of time. You have to see what you can get out of these guys. So yeah, mix it up a little bit.
So the other part about this is, like, who is the DH if Yelich is in the outfield? We're missing somebody. You're going to have to look up a box score. Frelick, Contreras, Terang, Yelich, Vaughn. That would be 1 through 5, right? If Yelich was in the outfield, or even if he's the DH. I'd rather have him be in the outfield to have another good bat. And then Black, let's say, is at first base if you have Vaughn in the outfield. Durbin batting, 6 or 8 at third base. If it's Siegler, it's definitely 8. Ortiz is 9. So really, that is all of your fielders. Now it's just whoever off the bench to be the designated hitter that you have left. I mean, you have Danny Jansen. That bat does not, I do not care about
Andrew
Danny.
Monasterio?
That bat doesn't play either.
Jake Bowers? That's probably where it goes.
Yeah. I guess.
Tommy's going to be happy. I know that.
He don't play. He just doesn't play.
He doesn't play anymore. I know he was hurt for a little bit there, but again, they haven't had room for him.
I mean, to get through this weekend, they need that top 5. Frelick, Contreras, Terang, Yelich, Vaughn. In whatever order that is, they got to continue to play well. That's first. And then second, your bullpen has to pitch well. And I think if that happens, I think you might be at 15 come Monday for that day-night doubleheader.
I don't think it's impossible to get to 15. I think, yeah, if you have everything go right, you're easily at that 15. The problem is I just don't expect everything to go right in this series. Everything has gone right for so long at this point. Again, 2 win streaks this season of 11-plus games. That's pretty insane, including a 12-game one. I mean, if you were to lose the streak in this series, it's not going to be that big of a deal. Yeah, it would suck that you lost the streak, but at the same time, look at what you've done. You're missing your best player this past month, and you're a team that probably needs to start figuring out some other things just in case disaster happens.
No, we're not going to speak of such things. We are not going to acknowledge such things. We're going to continue to move forward like this is how this is going to look the rest of the year. Right? We're going to continue to play, what is it, a 7:30 clip they've been playing at as of late? I mean, that is insanity to play at this level. All right, let's get to your fan weather forecast. 86 degrees, partly cloudy skies. A real feel, Charlie, of 92 degrees. Real feel of 92. That's hot. That's hot.
Too hot.
Yeah.
I'm wearing a sweatshirt. I don't know why.
Some rain possible on the overnight low tonight of 70. And then tomorrow, rain. There you go. That's what I'm going to say for Saturday. Saturday is rain, thunderstorms possible. So enjoy the nice weather, man. Find a patio to eat out on tonight, grill out tonight, and enjoy the nice weather while we have it. So Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's, live from the 1250 AM at 105.7 FM The Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Up next, yes, for those of you on YouTube that want to talk about Amir Coffee in the books, I'll mention Amir Coffee. We'll discuss it for like 2 minutes, but the Bobby Portis Kuminga trade story, that's something that we have to address because it appears that maybe Bobby Portis was in the land of the Untouchables and we didn't even know it. We'll discuss that next on The Fan. Welcome in. It is Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's. Sparky here, Charlie Usen over there, other side of the glass. Thanks for tuning in here on a Friday. Appreciate it. Let me tell you all about our fine folks over there at Wendy's. Love Taki Fuego chips? Listen up because you've never had them like this. Wendy's new Taki Fuego meals are here. And Sammy has the Taki Fuego chip intensity you love piled up on one of their fan favorite spicy chicken sandwiches with Taki Fuego chips, chili lime sauce, and creamy corn spread. The small Fuego fries get tossed in an intense chili lime seasoning. It's almost like this meal couldn't take any more Taki Fuego chip intensity. That's where the extra 1 ounce bag of Taki Fuego chips on the side comes in. Well, while supplies last, you can grab this Taki Fuego meal at Wendy's, open midnight or later, limited time only at participating U.S. Wendy's. Okay, so Charlie Usen, you tell me your initial thoughts when you saw the news yesterday that I didn't feel was worthy of even bringing up on this show, if we're being honest, and we didn't. But apparently afterwards, and when I went on social media and realized that Bucs fans are all nuts, I'm like, okay, well, we probably should have brought it up, I guess. Amir Coffey with a training camp invite. And I want to tell this again. This is a camp body. Could he make the team? Maybe. But this is a camp body. But it is a vet that's played in the league, right? So it's not some dude that's been on college for 3 years trying to latch onto an NBA team still. This is a vet.
I had almost no reaction. I saw the signing.
Yeah.
I saw Shams put it out on ESPN. I saw the Bucs. I was like, oh, the Bucs made a signing. Saw the name and then immediately turned off my phone because it was not that big of a deal to me. I saw people making fun of like the Bucs small forward rotation now and saying that like Gary Trent Jr. has no competition with guys like Amir Coffey and Torian Prince and Kyle Kuzma fighting with him for it. All these jokes about it. It's really nothing to me. Yes, great. I'll take another body if he plays well. Awesome. Join the team. But also, what is he at best? Andre Jackson Jr.? Not really that much.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, that, to me, they called him, if you look on Google, they call him a sharpshooter. I don't think I would label Amir Coffey as a sharpshooter, right? I mean, if I ask you for the best three-point shooters around the NBA, who names Amir Coffey?
Not me. He's not going to be on my list.
Does anybody in his own family name him as a sharpshooter in the NBA?
I mean, he's got a 38% career clip, 40% from three last season.
I understand. I'm just asking you, if I said name sharpshooters in the NBA, would you have said Amir Coffey?
No.
No.
Now I'm going to, though. That's pretty funny.
Get out of here, man. Great Talk Packers with Ryan Wood, Packers beat writer for the Journal-Sentinel and Green Bay Press-Gazette. Coming up here at 2:40, get his take on the Packers and Colts scrimmage yesterday. But got to touch on the Bucs here a little bit. Now, the reason why we want to touch on the Bucs a little bit was not because of that, but I saw people over there. Hey, Charlie has the YouTube stream up. You can read some of the comments there on the YouTube chat going on now about Amir Coffey and the Bucs.
So Kenny on YouTube over there says, shout out to the Bucs, Amir Coffey, a buck. I like that pickup. Q says, marks the end of Ajax.
Does it, though? Does it, though? That's what I want to see. Will it, though? First of all, I'm not quite sure why he's still here to begin with, if we're being honest. Secondly, if it does mark the end of Andre Jackson, that's another whiff and a miss by John Horst for draft selections. And that's not a reason to get rid of John Horst. It's not a reason to go crazy about John Horst. Because, again, he's not picking in the lottery every year, right? He's not he's not at that point. He's at the bottom. He barely ever has ones. You know, you could. I would think his best draft pick is still DiVincenzo. That's the best draft pick he's made. Andre Jackson definitely does not get into that category. But he's gone. Then you traded AJ Johnson, to the Wizards. I'm telling you, that one's gonna come back and bite him. But AJ Johnson, so you got Tyler Smith. That's your last hope for one of these young guys as we're trying to make it a younger team of hopefully turning around and proving themselves. And I saw Tyler Smith in the Summer League. I like Tyler Smith. I'm a Tyler Smith fan. But he doesn't look much bigger physically, which I think was something that should have happened this offseason. And I didn't walk away from the Summer League going, oh, yeah, he's going to contribute to the rotation this year. I didn't see that.
No, I saw inconsistency from him, especially compared to some of the other players on the court, players that never really had a shot at making the Milwaukee Bucks roster at all, and he just kind of seemed not into it as much as they were at certain points in some of these Summer League games. And like you said, you know how to build a body now. You did it with Giannis.
Yes.
It took a long time, but you know how it works now.
But in defense of the Bucks training staff, which has changed from time to time, Bucks in defense there, they had Thon Maker, okay? And I'm telling you, there is a Thon Maker story out there from years ago, and it talks about how the dude would sit down, right? And they'd have a teammate sit down with him or a coach, so you'd have somebody to talk to, and they would tell him to eat for an hour straight. Do not stop eating. Keep feeding yourself, right? The calorie intake that dude was taking on a day-to-day basis, the weight training, everything. They did everything in their power to try to add muscle mass and weight onto that guy, and it didn't work. His frame is what it was. They couldn't get him any bigger. I don't know what they did with Tyler Smith this offseason. I don't know how much of a priority it was, but to me, it didn't look like he got any bigger. No. And Giannis didn't become that big overnight. That was a process, year over year over year over year.
It took 4 years to get him that size.
And Giannis was over the top dedicated. He wasn't like, oh, yeah, I'll do what you want. He did, oh, yeah, I'll do what you want. Now, what else can I do? Now, what else can I do? Can we do something else? What else can I do? He was over the top dedicated. That's a big ask for any other NBA athlete to be over the top dedicated like that. So, again, I'm not banging on Tyler Smith because he didn't put on weight. I'm just saying it was something I noticed watching Summer League that it doesn't look like he's any bigger than he was.
Which doesn't help the position that he's playing for this team, which is forward center, hopefully more of a defensive small ball center.
Right.
And if he can't do that, then you can't be on the team, if we're being honest. It's a very specialized role for a very specialized player.
The topic we want to do in this segment that we're going to do right now is a story out by Brett Siegel, who comes on the Mason Crosby show from time to time, correct?
Correct. Yep.
And he's been on that show. So he wrote a piece talking about the Jonathan Kuminga deal that everybody was thinking Kuminga was going to, eventually be moved by the Warriors and so forth, that they were open to a sign and trade. But according to Siegel, it's also worth mentioning that the Milwaukee Bucks were another team that kicked around the idea of pursuing Kuminga. If they were to do so, the Warriors made it known they would want Bobby Portis in a sign and trade scenario, which is something Milwaukee wasn't willing to do. Kuminga's only 22 now. Kuminga is 22 with a chance to be a guy that could be a 1 or a 2 on a team based on the talent we've seen. Now, we've not seen it consistently, but you have seen him have games where you're like, oh, damn, that kid could be pretty good. So it would have went along with the idea of replacing Kuzma with a younger player that has a higher upside than Kuzma at that point going forward. And that never happened, never materialized. But I think the thing that stands out in all of this is they just refuse to move Bobby Portis. Like, no, we're not trading him. Sorry. We know he's older, and we're going to get a much younger player back, but we're not willing to trade Bobby Portis. The question is, do you think Bobby Portis deserves that level of, quote, untouchableness or whatever, to be an untouchable, like apparently he might have been in this deal according to this report? Do you think he deserves that type of respect from the Bucks organization? Nikolay Law Fan Talk at text line 414-677-1250, 414-677-1250. You can also find us on YouTube. Search the Fan Milwaukee on YouTube. You can message there like Q. Now Mo has one as well. Mo says Tyler Smith is moving to small forward. Well, maybe. I don't think he's a small forward. I think, as I've said before, and I'm going to continue to ride this train, he reminds me, not because they have the same last name, he reminds me of Josh Smith with the Hawks. That's who that kid reminds me of. A stretch 4 that can play outside, super long, athletic, has the ability to block shots and be a shot blocker on the defensive side of the floor. That's who he reminds me of. I don't think he's a small forward. So if they're going to move him to small forward, good luck, Godspeed. I don't think it's going to work. But anyways, back to this Bobby Portis thing. Does the Bobby Portis deserve that level of kind of being an untouchable and refusing to move him in a sign and trade for Kuminga? If you were asking me, if I was Gian Horst and I was a GM, Bobby Portis has to be involved. Yeah, okay. What else you want? This wouldn't be, hold on, I'll call you back. No, it wouldn't be. Absolutely not. I'm not moving Bobby, man. I can't move my guy Bobby. No. And I defend Portis, right? I didn't want Portis to go somewhere else and play. Some of y'all did. I didn't. I was happy they brought back Bobby Portis. So this has nothing to do with not me liking Bobby Portis. This has me along the lines of I can get a young stud that I can pair with Giannis for the next 5 years, and if Kuminga pans out to be something, gives Giannis another reason to stay and play. That, to me, would be why I'd want to do it. I know he loves Bobby Portis, so maybe, you go too far backwards by getting rid of Bobby because you already got rid of Middleton, you already got rid of Lillard, and you got rid of Brook Lopez. He left in free agency. This roster from that championship team, I think it's only Giannis and Bobby left.
I think so. When I look at this scenario, at first I was like, oh, well, why is Bobby Portis, like you're saying, that level untouchable? It doesn't really make sense for him to be at that level. And I thought about it a little bit, and I don't think it's that Bobby Portis has that level of untouchability to the Milwaukee Bucks. I think, one, it's that they didn't want Jonathan Kuminga that much. I think it was more so they were willing to throw a package out there, but they were okay if they didn't make that trade. And the second thing is, I don't think Kyle Kuzma has the trade value. If you go and trade for a guy like Jonathan Kuminga, there's literally no reason to keep Kyle Kuzma on your team. And if you don't feel like you can move him for a reasonable package after you trade for a guy like Jonathan Kuminga, what is the point of making that deal when you're just going to have two guys that are basically the same in Kuzma and Kuminga at this point in their careers? I know Kuminga has a higher upside, but he still is extremely volatile like a Kyle Kuzma.
Well, he's 22.
Exactly. He has those up and downs. He also has a little bit of an attitude issue at points when he's not getting his way. That was part of the reason the Warriors weren't exactly the fondest of him after the 3 years that he spent with the organization. These are all things that I think the Bucks are trying to avoid at this point in their kind of quote-unquote rebuild with whatever's happening with this team. You want the right culture guys around. Bobby Portis is that, and you want to make sure that if you're going to make a move, it's going to be a move that helps improve this team and not just a lateral move.
It's interesting because we talk about Giannis and the future of the Bucks and so forth. There was a report yesterday that the Bucks had not signed off on Giannis playing with Team Greece coming up this summer. That was yesterday, and it's part of his deal, I guess, as far as the insurance money that covers it, not because of the size of his contract and so forth. Now there's a report today that came out late this morning that says Giannis is apparently set to make his debut for the national team this summer in a friendly game next week. That's Harris Stavro, who we've had on this station from Sport 24 in the past. He'll play in the preparation game against Kristaps Porzingis' team, Latvia, coming up on August 20th in Athens. And it says earlier it was reported that his absence from the first preparation games was due to unpaid insurance by the Hellenic Basketball Federation.
Interesting.
That's not a good tie. I'm just saying.
This seems like a can of worms being opened.
I don't think I'm comfortable with all this nonsense going forward. But we'll see. Who knows what happens. But at the end of the day, listen, I understand, right? If you want to make Giannis happy and make sure he's got a guy with him, fine. If you go back to the Brett Favre days, they gave him Doug Peterson. Why? Because it was an old dude, right? He had an old dude to go hunting with. He had an old dude to talk about old-time stuff with. Because the rest of that locker room had completely been changed. It was a bunch of young guys you couldn't relate to. Aaron Rodgers, same type of deal. He ended up getting surrounded by a bunch of young guys, too. And he had Bakhtiari, but then Crosby's gone. And, all of this starts to happen, and all of his guys are out of the locker room. And then it's, you don't know how to relate to people. And then you have to move on from that player. So now you have Giannis, you're keeping him with Bobby Portis, and then surrounding him kind of with others going forward. Coming up next, we're going to talk with Ryan Wood, Packers beat writer from the Journal-Sentinel and the Green Bay Press-Gazette. He's in Indianapolis. He was at the scrimmage yesterday between the Packers and the Colts. Straight ahead, it's Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's, live from the 1250 AM and 105.7 FM, The Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky here.
I don't know until he gets back here and see how he feels. I mean, we'll see. Obviously, he'll be out this week. And then I would put it highly unlikely that he plays for Seattle. As far as the practice is concerned, I can't tell you that at this moment.
There is Matt LaFleur, Packers head coach, talking about the latest on Jordan Love yesterday, as Jordan Love is in Indianapolis after having the ligament damage or whatever worked on with his thumb. And as Matt said, he highly doubts he plays against Seattle, which means he should be ready with no game action per se in the next 2 weeks for the Lions game in week 1. Football Talk on the Fan is presented by Paramount Plus. You can't count on much these days, but you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. Watch your local NFL game live every Sunday on CBS and Paramount Plus all season long. Visit ParamountPlus.com/NFL to get started today, and then you'll have that opportunity to watch your guy Jordan Love each and every week. Hopefully he's healthy. Hopefully Jaden Reed is back because he's out. Hopefully Dontavian Wicks is back because he's out. Yesterday in the scrimmage between Green Bay and Indianapolis, you had no Romeo Doubs because he was out with a back issue they don't think is serious. They were now literally 5 wide receivers yesterday. Plus, they didn't have their starting quarterback yesterday as well. I mean, that there is something else when you start talking about what really to take away from the scrimmage. The one thing that we could take away from the scrimmage, I think, was just how good the Packer defense was yesterday. Packer defense in one team series had 5 sacks in one team series. 5. That's a lot. That's a lot of sacks. And they did it in different ways, right? I mean, Van Ness comes off the edge for one. You had Gary come off the edge for another. And the other 3 were brought on blitzes from different players in the Packers defense. It was interesting. I read a piece earlier today about Kenny Clark and the fact that Kenny Clark talked to his Packers teammates after that fiasco that was week 1 of the preseason and pretty much said, hey, man, like, if we're going to be this defense that we want to be, we can't just kind of go out there and go through the motions. If we're going to be this defense, then we have to be aggressive and physical in games, including in the preseason at this point, right? We can't just go through the motions in preseason and then think, oh, we'll just turn it on come the regular season. Kenny Clark never talks. So for Kenny Clark to see it and be perturbed enough by what he saw to stand up in the locker room and have a conversation with his guys about, that's not how we're going to do this. And then to see it play out in the scrimmage, not a preseason game, but a scrimmage against the Colts and dominate. Those are starters for the Colts, right? I mean, Daniel Jones, he could start at quarterback for the Colts. Anthony Richardson, they hope is going to be their starting quarterback. He's out there. Their starting offensive line was out there. This wasn't like your ones were beating up on their 2s or 3s for the Indianapolis Colts. We could talk about how good the team's going to be, the Colts. I don't think they're going to be very good. But still, to have that level of aggressiveness, not only from the players, but from the play caller, Charlie, right? Jeff Hafley dialing up blitzes in a scrimmage to go get the quarterback instead of playing it super vanilla like you would see in a preseason game.
But you kind of have to be. With this Packers team, what we saw last season with the pass rush, it was kind of unfortunate. Considering the type of talent, the type of money that you had put into that room, you were hoping to see a little bit more. And if you're looking to see a little bit more moving forward here, then you need to start dialing up blitzes. You need to find ways to get that front 4 group open if they're not going to be able to do it on their own. And I think that's the biggest key with this Packers team is finding ways to be creative when you don't have the top end talent at certain positions.
Correct. And see, that's the other part about this is when we talk about how aggressive you can be when you are Jeff Hafley. I was listening to Andy Herman earlier today, and he was talking about, man, I'm going to fall over on the floor if we come to find out the Packers were even trying to get Micah Parsons at this point, right? I'm going to fall over on the floor and take a day off and get drunk maybe if they get Micah Parsons at this point. And he talks about the idea of rushing the passer from an edge position, right? Rushing the passer over the center. blitzing from a linebacker position, dropping back and covering a tight end, running with a wide receiver maybe and playing nickelback. Who knows how Jeff Hafley would do it? But when you have that elite level of talent, that's a game changer. Because as I've talked about before, now you're the quarterback, you walk up to the line of scrimmage, and you are pointing at guys on the defensive side of the football that you want to make sure you know where they are. When you walk up to the line of scrimmage, I would assume Jordan Love looks to see where's Aiden Hutchinson right there, right? Make sure we know where he is. If you walk up to the line of scrimmage and you're playing Dallas, and Dallas is known for moving Micah Parsons left to right, that is something to pay attention to of, okay, he's over here. All right, he's lined up over center. Here's the number. And you're calling out his jersey number so the offensive linemen know what's going on. I would assume when you're in college, it was probably the same thing.
When you're in college, it's the same thing. When you're in high school, it's the same thing. Every level that you are watching film at, the coaches will consistently point out the best players on the field. And then when you get to practice, the practice squad players that are representing those players get hats. They get little like bald caps to put on their helmets so you know which players are supposed to be representing the star players on that team. And then in game, it's not just the quarterback. The offensive linemen are looking around for the certain player. The wide receivers look for a certain cornerback. If they have like the weak side corner on them, then they'll tap their helmet, tell them that they're going on a go route. It's all a ton of communication that you need to get down in the week of practice before. And a lot of this stuff, especially in the NFL, you kind of know which players are going to be the power positions on defense. So you can kind of guess which ones are going to be the hats each week. In high school and college is a little different because teams are just so much more spread out, so much more even. In the NFL, you have to focus on these certain players, and in order to focus on that certain archetype of player, you have to practice that then in the preseason as well, not just the week before practice or a game.
Correct. That's absolutely correct. So the other part of this for me is when we talk about the defensive coordinator himself, and I think when we start talking about the defense and how aggressive you want to be at this point and how physical you want to be and everything, I think that comes from the play caller on the defensive side of the ball. From this aspect, and again, Andy was talking about this earlier today, Pack-A-Day Radio from 8 to 9. The idea of they're down in the goal line situation, red zone situation, right? He's playing, high safety, man-to-man defense. He's like, you're not going to play that in that scenario in a game, but you're playing it in that scenario, the one high safety and the man-to-man. Why? Because you want to see what those corners look like against those wide receivers in those situations, whatever. You're not necessarily worried about the quarterback, Justin Fields, taking off and running into the end zone, but you're just trying to get a look. So in preseason, you're not game planning necessarily. And in a scrimmage, I would assume you're not game planning there either, but you're trying stuff out. Well, when you get to Detroit and the Lions, then you're going to see just how aggressive he's going to be. You're going to see just how much he trusts his secondary based on how much extra help he's providing those front four with blitzes from different perspectives. If he does not trust his corners or his safeties, you will not see much blitzing from the Green Bay Packers.
But also, it's a great safety group to trust. I think that's one of the best in the league right now with Xavier McKinney and Evan Williams and all these other players that are willing to step up when they need to. I think that makes it really easy to get these cornerbacks on blitzes a little bit more because you can trust those safeties to do their job and be that safety net. Now you need the cornerbacks to step up a little bit. You don't have a Jair Alexander that you can hope to come back at this point in the season. It's Carrington Valentine, it's Nate Hobbs, and it's everybody else alongside Keyshawn Nixon, all these different players that you have to trust and believe in. But also, this Packers team is one of the best teams at just trusting and believing in the players that you have on the field at any given time. Again, it's a great culture, a great organization that I think turns players around better than almost anybody else. It's kind of a lot like the Brewers.
Well, the other part about this, too, is when we talk about the Packers and the Lions, the Packers and the Bears, the Packers and the Vikings, the big difference here is they know our tendencies to a degree based on looking at film from last year. The Packers don't have that same advantage necessarily with Minnesota from the idea that Minnesota has a new quarterback, right? So you don't know how the offense is going to change with Kevin O'Connell, with J.J. McCarthy playing that Packers defense. But Kevin O'Connell knows exactly the tendencies Jeff Hafley ran with what he had last year on defense. The Bears have a whole new coaching staff, right? And you don't know what Ben Johnson's going to do. Did you see that story on Caleb Williams? That apparently they're charting completion percentage in practices for Caleb Williams. They want him to be at 70%, and apparently he's not at 70% at this point. I found that interesting because that's putting some pressure on that dude of this means something. Like, I want you to try in these practices, and I want you to be at 70% pretty much every practice, in games, that whole deal, and starting to build that track record. So you don't know what that offense is going to look like until it starts playing. So you're not in a position of advantage there, but Ben Johnson knows how you play defense. He saw you play defense when you played the Lions. So to me, that's advantage Chicago as well, at least for the first couple of games, this season. That's definitely advantage Chicago. And then if you talk about the Detroit Lions, they got 2 new coordinators. So you got no idea on that either. But they got film on you, and this defense has not made many moves other than adding Hobbs. So it's pretty much the same personnel group. They're at a disadvantage to a certain degree from a coaching schematics point, I think, going into the regular season.
Probably, but also what we've seen, at least from the offensive side of the ball, is Matt LaFleur has learned how to adapt really well throughout his entire career as a Packers head coach. Yes, in the playoffs, it falls a little bit short, but in the regular season, he's been able to change his offense halfway through the year in order to fit whoever's on the field, whatever's happening, and that helps give it a different dynamic to the teams that you face all the time. The benefit to Jeff Hafley is, yes, everybody saw him last year. But last year, that also wasn't the best overall defense all the time for the Packers out on the field. He was running some vanilla things a lot of the times because you don't have your number one cornerback out there, because you're missing your 2 starting middle linebackers for half the season, because your defensive line isn't playing up to par what they've done in the past. You didn't really see everything that I think this defense is capable of here, especially in year 2 of learning the defense and learning the system. Now that they're more comfortable in it, it should evolve a little bit. And if it doesn't evolve, I think that's on Jeff Hafley.
Yes, it probably is on Jeff Hafley, or is it on Brian Gutekunst for not upgrading the talent level to which he's playing with? Because Dom Capers, you go back and look what he had. Ted Thompson just drafted dudes and said, figure it out. This is not supposed to be that. This is supposed to be coaches with the GM working together on getting the best players that fit the style of defense that they want to play. They made the change at coordinator because they wanted to change the style of play with Jeff Hafley. And at the beginning of last year, didn't seem like there was much difference. As the year went on, it looked like it started to become more of what Jeff Hafley wanted. But that's because there was a training wheels period, right? He didn't know what Quay Walker could handle one way or the other. He had to learn Quay Walker. He had a rookie in Edgerrin Cooper. He didn't know what he could handle. He had to figure that out. He had rookies all over the secondary with Bullard and Evan Williams and these guys. You get a brand new player in Xavier McKinney, who you know on film, but you don't know how he's going to be as a leader of that defense. So it was a learning process through the first half of the year. Then once he started to figure things out, you saw different guys' roles start to expand and them have better chances of being a positive impact on the defensive side, making a game-changing play, making a tackle for a loss, and so forth. This year, you come in, you hit the ground running, and now this defense should start off much better than what they did last year.
It should. And going back to your point about Gutekunst and what he did this offseason, if we're being honest, a lot of teams overpaid for a lot of players that haven't proven themselves in the past 2 or 3 seasons. I mean, the Bears spent a lot of money on a lot of guys that have taken steps backwards throughout the past couple of seasons here, and I think that's something we really have to look at in the grand scheme of things. Yes, the Packers didn't go out and make a ton of moves. Nate Hobbs was their best defensive signing that they made. At the same time, it was really that or keep Jair Alexander were going to be the best moves possible, and most people didn't want to keep Jair Alexander at this point. He was just too much of an injury concern. With Nate Hobbs out there, at least it's a fresh face, and he was one of the best cornerbacks on the market at that point that you weren't going to have to overpay for. These are all extremely important things that I think people try to neglect sometimes. Yeah, the Packers didn't go and make a big trade, but who did go and make a big trade this offseason? Realistically, a smart big trade. So if you look at all those factors, yes, if the defense doesn't take another step, it's kind of a problem. You want to see a guy who's on a hot seat like Brian Gutekunst make changes and make more decisions with more confidence. But at the same time, you can't make bad decisions and put yourself in a hole like some of these other poor franchises.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. Hey, Potawatomi, baby, the sports book. That's where you're going to want to have your fantasy football draft at. You could have your fantasy football draft in your garage. Sure. You could have your fantasy football draft in your basement if you want. Absolutely. Have it in your basement. No problem. You could have it at a bar, right? Some places have rooms where you could have it, or you could just have it in the bar, be super loud, all gather around a table and have your laptops out and try and figure out how to do it that way. Yeah, you could do it too. None of those ways will be as cool as having your fantasy football draft at the Potawatomi Sportsbook, man. You get the second level at the Potawatomi Sportsbook. It's 2 levels, 6,500 square feet. You get the second level. Private elevator access for just the guys or girls in the fantasy football league, okay? They get this large table or tables that all up there together. Up to 14-team league is what this is for. So if you have 16 or more, you can't do it, I'm sorry. But 14 or less, you're good. They'll put out a smorgasbord of food for you to eat throughout your draft. Each of you get 3 drink tickets while the draft is going on as well. You have a podium, like where you can make the selections, draft board, stickers for the draft board, and on this second level, you are eye level. Charlie can attest to this. Eye level with a gigantic big screen, 2,000 square feet big screen in front of you. Over 30 different sporting events can be shown at one time. You have downstairs, you can walk up and make your bets on the games you're watching while the draft's going on, or future bets for the season, or whatever it is you want to bet. You can do it right there in the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Just go down the elevator, boop, make your bet, come back upstairs. It's a no-brainer. Free parking right there in the Potawatomi Sportsbook garage. There's a fee for each player, obviously, that goes into this because they got to pay for their food, the drink, all that stuff. But I'm telling you, it is worth it. Everybody in your league will be talking about that draft for years to come. But guarantee that's going to happen. For more information, go to Potawatomi.com/sportsbook. Potawatomi.com/sportsbook. Coming up on the other side of a quick timeout, we're going to hear from Jeff Rieger from 97.1 The Ticket. Michigan having sanctions coming down on them. We'll get his thoughts on that. 3:20. We'll go inside the clubhouse. Brought to you by Focus Baseball. Andrew Wagner, Forbes Sports Brewers writer, will get us updated on all the moves. There was like 6 moves that the Brewers made today, so we'll get you updated on that coming up at 3:20. Charlie's Sounds of the Day comes up at 3:40. And then at 4, Tyler Dunn, Green and Gold update from GoLongTD.com will join us. He had a bunch of things going on in his mailbag, one of which involved a conversation about Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. So we'll have Tyler Dunn on to talk about that coming up at 4 o'clock. Charlie, plans for the weekend? Are you working all weekend or what?
I am not working all weekend. I work on Sunday, but tomorrow we're going to the Ren Fair.
The what?
The Renaissance Fair.
Oh, in Kenosha.
So hopefully it doesn't rain. When you were talking about rain, it worried me a little bit. I know there was supposed to be rain, so I'm hoping it's just like early in the morning.
Did you buy tickets online, or how'd you get tickets?
We just got them online.
You did?
Yep. And we got a parking pass and everything. I splurged a little bit, to make sure we get in nice and safe.
Nice. Well, you park in the grass. I don't know. But yeah, that's cool. I've not been to that since I was like 10, 12.
The last time I went, I was probably like 8.
Yeah. My parents took me. But I've never taken our kids to the Renaissance Fair.
You should take them.
I should, yes. But it will scare the daylights out of the 3-year-old. So it's going to have to wait. The 3-year-old would be scared out of her mind, so that's out. But that is a great time, so enjoy that for sure.
Will do.
Coming up next, it's Jeff Rieger from The Ticket in Detroit. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's, live from 1250 AM and 105.7 FM, The Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky here.